Admiral Jin A. Choi stood in the war room deep beneath what used to be Seoul. The massive chamber hummed with activity. Hundreds of officers worked at holographic displays that showed the entire galaxy. Red zones marked areas consumed by the void swarm. There were far too many red zones. "Admiral, we're receiving the transmission from Kepler 442b, reported her communications officer. Jin-A listened to Commander Park's desperate message. Her scarred face showed no emotion, but her hands clenched into fists. She remembered the day Earth was supposed to die, the day the Galactic Council abandoned them to the swarm. "General Nam, activate all deep space monitors," she ordered. General Dong-Hyun Nam nodded from his position at the tactical display. "Already done, Admiral. Our sensor network confirms massive swarm activity in the outer rim. They're moving toward the galactic core. How many ships can we deploy immediately?" "First battle group is ready. 50 vessels, all equipped with phase technology." Jin-A walked to the main display. It showed Earth as others saw it, a dead world surrounded by the energy signature of swarm consumption. The perfect lie. For 23 years, they had hidden behind that false death. Chief Engineer Mi-Ran Song approached with a datapad. "Admiral, the Silent Thunder reports successful infiltration of the Kepler system. Captain Yang is in position." "Good. Begin Phase 2 preparations." The command center around them was just one of dozens hidden throughout the Sol system. Underground cities housed 15 billion people. Orbital habitats disguised as asteroids held massive shipyards. The entire solar system had become a fortress that existed in the shadows. It had not always been this way. Ginny remembered the day the Council abandoned Earth. She had been a young captain then, commanding a border patrol ship. The Void Swarm had attacked without warning, consuming the outer colonies in hours. Earth's fleet fought desperately, buying time for civilian evacuations. Then came the message from the Galactic Council. Earth was declared a lost cause. All Allied forces were ordered to withdraw. They would not risk their ships to save a minor species. Jin-A had watched from her ship's bridge as Council vessels jumped away, leaving Earth's people to die alone. But humans had always been good at surviving the impossible. "Ma'am, transmission from Captain Yang," the communications officer reported. Captain Jae-Sung Yang appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Jin-A could see the bridge of the Silent Thunder. The ship's interior was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Curved walls seemed to absorb light. Control panels flickered with energy that looked almost alive. "Admiral, the situation here is worse than our reports indicated," Yang said. "The swarm has learned new tricks. They're adapting faster than before." "Understood, Captain. What's your assessment of the local forces?" "Commander Park's people are brave, but their weapons are useless against the swarm. They're fighting with standard galactic technology. No wonder they're losing." Ginny nodded. The galaxy had grown soft during Earth's absence. They relied on energy shields and plasma weapons that the swarm could easily counter. They had forgotten how to fight a real war. "General Nam, status on the Shadow Fleet?" "All ships are ready, Admiral. The new phase drives are operating perfectly. Our vessels can exist in normal space and swarm dimensions simultaneously." That had been Earth's breakthrough. During the dark years after their supposed destruction, human scientists had studied captured swarm creatures. They learned the aliens existed partially outside normal reality. So humans had built ships that could do the same. "Dr. Yoon, what do we know about swarm behavior in this sector?" Dr. Hyejin Yoon looked up from her research station. She had spent 15 years studying live swarm specimens in high-security laboratories. "The creatures are more organized than usual. This isn't random feeding, they're following a specific plan." "Explain." "Each system they consume is carefully chosen. They're building something, creating a network of dead worlds that resonates with their home dimension." Jin-A felt a chill. If the swarm was planning something larger, they needed to act quickly. "Admiral, incoming message from Captain Yang," the communications officer announced. "Priority Alpha." "Put him through." Yang's face appeared again, but now he looked urgent. "Ma'am, the swarm is beginning their final assault on Commander Park's position. 12 ships against thousands of creatures. They won't last another hour. Time to reveal ourselves. Signal all units. Begin Operation Lazarus. Around the command center, officers moved with practiced efficiency. This moment had been planned for years. Earth's return to the galaxy would not be subtle. Opening quantum fold portals, reported the navigation officer. Fleet deployment in 30 seconds. Jin A walked to the central command platform. Around her, holographic displays showed Earth's hidden ships powering up across the solar system. Vessels built with hybrid human swarm technology prepared to emerge from their hiding places. Captain Yang, you are authorized to decloak. Show the galaxy that Earth lives. Understood, Admiral. It's been a long time since we fought in the open. 2. Long, Captain. Make it count. The transmission ended. Jin-A watched the tactical display as Yang's ship revealed itself near Kepler 442b. The silent thunder appeared from nowhere, its strange hull rippling like water. Sensors throughout the galaxy would be screaming alarms. Ma'am, we're detecting massive energy spikes from the Galactic Council's monitoring stations, reported the intelligence officer. They know something is happening. Let them know. Signal all Council worlds on emergency frequencies. Tell them reports of our death were greatly exaggerated. Jin-A thought about the years of hiding, watching from the shadows as the swarm consumed. World after world, the Council had declared victory over humanity's aggressive tendencies. They believed Earth's destruction had made the galaxy safer. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Fleet deployment complete, General Nam announced. 50 ships have successfully jumped to Kepler 442b. All vessels are operating in phase. On the display, Jeannie watched her ships appear around the dying world. They moved like ghosts, phasing in and out of normal space. Swarm creatures that tried to attack them found their energy beams passing through empty air. Weapons are charged and ready, reported the tactical officer. All ships report green status. Signal Captain Yang. Begin the demonstration. What happened next would be recorded in history books across the galaxy. Earth's ships opened fire with weapons that turned swarm energy against itself. Dark creatures that had seemed invincible suddenly found themselves burning from the inside. Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from several swarm clusters, the communications officer reported with amazement. They're trying to communicate. Jin-A smiled grimly. That was Earth's greatest secret. The swarm could be reasoned with if you spoke their language, and humans had spent 23 years learning that language. Accept their surrender. Transfer them to containment fields. Ma'am, incoming transmission from Commander Park. The Altarian commander appeared on screen, his face showing complete shock. This is impossible. Earth was destroyed. We saw the bomb. Reports. Commander Park. This is Admiral Jin-A Choi of the Earth Defense Force. We've been waiting a long time to return this favor. But how? The Council said many things. Most of them lies. We'll explain later. Right. Now we have a galaxy to save. Around Kepler 442b, the tide of battle had completely turned. Swarm creatures fled in panic as Earth's ships pursued them with impossible speed. The aliens had never faced an enemy that could follow them into their own dimension. Admiral, long range. Sensors are detecting swarm movement throughout the galaxy, General Nam reported. They're retreating from multiple systems. Good. Fear is a powerful teacher. Jin-A looked at the tactical display showing Earth's position in the galaxy. For 23 years, they had been a dark spot on every map, a reminder of what happened to species that fought too hard against impossible odds. Now they were about to remind the universe why humans had once been the galaxy's protectors. Signal the fleet. Prepare for Phase 3. It's time to pay some old friends a visit. The Galactic Council was about to receive visitors they thought were dead, and this reunion was going to be very interesting. The city burned below as Hyunwoo Park stood on the command deck of his flagship. Orange flames reached toward the dark sky like desperate fingers. The Void Swarm had come to Kepler 442b 3 days ago, and now his world was dying. Sir, we've lost contact with the Eastern Defense Grid, reported his communications officer. The young woman's voice shook with fear. Hyunwoo nodded but said nothing. He had learned long ago that panic spreads faster than fire. Around him, his bridge crew worked at their stations with quiet desperation. They all knew the truth. This was the end. The void swarm creatures moved across the planet's surface like living darkness. They consumed everything they touched. Buildings, trees, people, all turned to dust and shadow. The things had no solid form. They were pure hunger made real. "Commander, incoming transmission from the science station," called out his tactical. "Officer, put it through." Dr. So Young Kim appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Hyunwoo could see her laboratory in chaos. Equipment sparked and papers flew everywhere. "Hyunwoo, I think I found something," she said quickly. "The swarm creatures avoid certain energy frequencies, the same frequencies used in old Earth weapons. Earth is gone, So Young, has been for 23 years. I know what the Council says, but these readings don't lie. The swarm fears something, and that something uses human technology." An explosion shook the ship. Warning lights flashed red across the bridge. Through the viewport, Hyunwoo watched another of his ships break apart under swarm attack. Dark tendrils wrapped around the hull like hungry snakes. "Sir, we're down to 12 ships," his tactical officer reported. "The swarm has us surrounded." Hyunwoo closed his eyes for a moment. His grandmother had been human. She came from Earth before the Great War. She used to tell him stories about human soldiers who never gave up, even when facing impossible odds. "Taemin," he called to his communications officer. "Do you still have those old transmission codes my grandmother gave us?" Captain Taemin Lee looked up from his station. "The human military frequencies?" "Yes, but sir, nobody has monitored those channels for decades. Prepare a distress signal. Use the old Earth protocols." "Sir?" Taemin's face showed confusion. Earth was destroyed during the first swarm invasion. The Galactic Council confirmed. "Choice maybe, but if anyone is out there, they need to know what's happening here. The swarm isn't just attacking us, it's learning, getting stronger." On the screen, Dr. So Young nodded. "Hyunwoo is right. I've been studying these creatures for months. They adapt to every weapon we use, but they won't go near certain areas where old human technology is buried." Another ship exploded in the distance. The swarm creatures moved like smoke, impossible to target. They phased through shields and turned metal to rust with their touch. "Taemin, send the message, all frequencies, maximum power." "Yes, sir." Taemin's fingers moved quickly across his controls. "Message ready. Broadcasting on all human military channels. This is Commander Hyunwoo Park of the Alterian Republic. We are the last free world in the Outer Rim. The Void Swarm has consumed 17 systems. We cannot stop them. If anyone receives this message, if Earth somehow survived, please help us. We remember the old alliance. We remember when humans stood between us and the dark. End transmission." The message shot out into space at faster than light speed. It would reach the Sol system in minutes if anything was left there to receive it. "Sir, swarm creatures are boarding the lower decks," reported his security chief. "Seal those sections. All hands to emergency stations." Through the ship's internal cameras, Hyunwoo watched his people fight. The swarm creatures flowed like liquid shadow through the corridors. Human weapons passed through them without effect. Only the old plasma barriers seemed to slow them down. "Commander, I'm reading massive swarm movement toward our position," his sensor officer called out. "They're bringing everything they have." On the main screen, space filled with dark shapes. The void swarm moved in perfect coordination, like parts of a single mind. They had been doing this for thousands of years, consuming world after world. "All ships, prepare for final battle formation," Hyunwoo ordered. His 12 remaining ships formed a defensive circle around the planet. It was hopeless, but they would not die quietly. Behind them, millions of civilians huddled in underground shelters. Maybe some would survive long enough for rescue ships to arrive. Maybe. "Sir, the swarm is jamming all communications," Taemin reported. "I can't reach the surface anymore." "What about our distress signal?" "It got through. The message reached deep space before they blocked us." That was something, at least. If anyone was listening, they would know what happened here. The swarm attack began without warning. Dark energy beams lanced out from the creature ships. They passed through shields like they weren't there. One of Hyunwoo's destroyers simply vanished, consumed entirely. Return fire. All weapons. His ships shot back with everything they had. Laser cannons, plasma missiles, gravity bombs. Most of the weapons passed harmlessly through the swarm creatures. Only a few energy types seemed to cause damage. Commander, the planet's quantum beacon is going dark, his sensor officer reported. They're cutting us off from the galactic network. Soon, no one would even know Kepler 442b had existed. The swarm would erase all trace of their civilization. It had happened to 17 other worlds already. Sir, I'm picking up something strange, the sensor officer said, frowning at her displays. There's an energy signature at the edge of the system, very faint. Survivors from another world? No, sir. It's different. The signature is almost invisible. I can barely detect it. Hope flickered in Hyunwoo's chest, then died. Probably just sensor echoes from the swarm attack. His instruments were failing as the creature's dark energy interfered with everything electronic. Another of his ships broke apart. Swarm creatures poured from the wreckage like spilled ink. They moved toward his flagship with hungry purpose, all. Power to forward shields, he ordered. The ship shook as swarm energy washed over them. Warning alarms screamed. The lights flickered and went out, leaving only emergency power. Hull breach on Deck 7, someone reported. Swarm creatures are inside the ship. This was it. The end of everything. Hyunwoo thought of his grandmother's stories. Human soldiers fighting impossible battles, never surrendering, even facing certain death. All hands abandon ship, he ordered quietly. Get to the escape pods. Sir, we can't just leave you, his tactical officer protested. That's an order. Someone needs to survive to tell others what happened here. His crew looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly they began leaving their stations. Hyunwoo remained on the bridge alone, watching the swarm creatures flow toward his position. Suddenly, his communications panel sparked to life. A voice spoke through the static, clear and strong. This is Captain Jae-sung Yang of the Earth vessel Silent Thunder. We received your message, Commander Park. Earth remembers the Alliance, too. Hyunwoo stared at the panel in shock. It was impossible. Earth had been destroyed decades ago. Everyone knew that. We're still here, the voice continued. We never left and were coming to help. On his sensor display, new contacts appeared around the system edge, ships unlike anything in his databases. They seemed to shift and blur, as if they weren't entirely real. The swarm creatures on his ship suddenly stopped moving. Through the ship's cameras, Hyunwoo watched them turn toward the viewports, as if sensing something that terrified them. Hold on, Commander, Captain Yang's voice said. This is going to be interesting. Space around Kepler 442b began to shimmer. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist. The void swarm creatures pulled back from their attack, gathering into defensive formations. Something was coming. Something that made even the swarm afraid. For the first time in days, Hyunwoo smiled. His grandmother's stories might be true after all. Maybe humans really didn't know how to give up. Maybe Earth had found a way to survive the impossible. The universe was about to find out. Captain Jae-sung Yang watched the chaos around Kepler 442b from his ship's bridge. Swarm creatures fled in all directions as Earth's shadow fleet emerged from fold space. Ships that had been invisible moments before now filled the void between stars. Captain, we're receiving a priority signal from Commander Park's flagship, his communications officer reported. Put him through. Commander Hyunwoo Park appeared on the main screen. His face showed complete disbelief. Behind him, his bridge crew stared in amazement as Earth ships moved like ghosts through space. This cannot be real, Park said quietly. Earth died 23 years ago. The entire galaxy mourned. The entire galaxy lied, Yang replied. We never left, Commander. We just learned to hide. Yang gestured toward the viewport. Outside, Earth ships engaged swarm creatures with weapons that seemed to defy physics. Beams of controlled dark energy struck the aliens, causing them to shriek and dissolve. How is this possible? Park asked. Those weapons, they're using swarm technology against the swarm. We had 23 years to study these creatures, Commander. When the galaxy abandoned us, we made a choice: learn or die. Fleet Admiral Seok Jin Kang's voice crackled through the ship's internal communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Kang. Operation Lazarus is proceeding ahead of schedule. Begin Phase 2 of the demonstration. Yang smiled grimly. Commander, Park, you might want to secure your crew for what comes next. Around the planet, Earth ships began to change. Their hulls rippled like liquid metal. Some vessels seemed to split apart, only to reform as completely different designs. Others simply faded from existence, becoming visible only when they fired their weapons. What are those things? Park whispered. Evolution, Commander. When you're declared dead, you have the freedom to become something new. The battle around Kepler 442b was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Earth ships moved through dimensions the swarm thought were their exclusive domain. They appeared inside enemy formations, striking from impossible angles. Dr. Hai Jin, Yoon's voice came through the communication system from her mobile laboratory ship. Captain Yang, I'm reading massive psychological trauma in the Swarm Collective. They're experiencing something they've never felt before. What's that, Doctor? Fear. For the first time in their existence, they're afraid. Yang watched a cluster of swarm creatures attempt to retreat into their home dimension. An Earth destroyer followed them, its hull shifting to match the alien energy signature. Moments later, the creatures emerged, fleeing back to normal space in panic. Commander Park, we're going to bring you aboard, Yang announced. Your people need to see what we've become. My ship is heavily damaged. I don't think we can make the transfer. Don't worry about that. Yang nodded to his helmsman. The silent thunder approached Park's crippled flagship. As it drew near, the Earthship's hull began to flow like water. It wrapped around the damaged vessel, creating a protective shell. What are you doing? Park asked, his voice tight with fear. Saving your ship the same way we saved ourselves. By adapting. The two vessels merged temporarily, their hulls becoming one. Park and his senior officers were transferred to the Silent Thunder, through corridors that hadn't existed moments before. When Park stepped onto Yang's bridge, he stopped in amazement. The walls pulsed with organic-looking energy. Control panels grew from the floor like living things. In the center of it all, Yang stood calmly, his hands resting on a command interface that resembled a tree's root system. This is not human technology, Park said slowly. It's not swarm technology either, Yang replied. It's something new, something that couldn't exist without both. Through the ship's transparent walls, Park watched the battle continue. Earth, vessels moved with fluid grace, their attacks perfectly coordinated. Each ship seemed to know what every other ship was thinking. How many of you are there? Park asked. Enough, Yang said simply. Commander, there's something you need to understand. The galaxy thinks we died because we were too aggressive, too willing to fight. The Council decided we were a threat that needed to be eliminated. The official reports said Earth was overwhelmed by the swarm. The official reports were written by people who watched us die from a safe distance. They could have saved us. They chose not to. Park's face showed growing understanding. You're saying the Council deliberately abandoned Earth? I'm saying the Council decided the galaxy was better off without humans. They got their wish. For 23 years, the galaxy has been without human protection. On the main display, statistics scrolled past. 17 worlds consumed by the swarm since Earth's supposed destruction. Millions of civilians dead. Entire species extinct. This is what peace looks like without us, Yang continued. The Council thought they were making the universe safer. Instead, they removed the only species willing to fight the monsters. But you survived. We did more than survive. We learned. Dr. Hee Jin Yoon appeared on the communication screen from her laboratory. Captain, we're receiving surrender signals from multiple swarm clusters. They want to negotiate. Put them through. The screen filled with swirling darkness. Slowly, shapes emerged from the void. The swarm creatures were trying to communicate. Through visual patterns. They're saying they remember us, Dr. Yoon translated. They remember Earth. They're asking why we're helping the food species. Yang leaned forward. Tell them the food species are under our protection. Tell them that humans have returned to the galaxy. The patterns on the screen shifted rapidly. The swarm creatures seemed agitated. "They're frightened," Dr. Yoon reported. "They remember what happened during the early wars, before the Council abandoned us." "What happened?" Park asked. Yang's expression grew distant. Humans were the first species to figure out how to kill swarm creatures permanently. Not just drive them away, but actually destroy them. We were also the first to discover they could be reasoned with. "You mean they're intelligent?" "Very intelligent. But their intelligence is distributed across the entire collective. Individual creatures are just extensions of a greater mind." The communication screen flickered as the swarm patterns became more complex. "They're offering a temporary truce," Dr. Yoon translated. "They want to know our terms. Tell them to withdraw from all inhabited systems immediately. Any swarm creature found attacking civilians will be destroyed. No exceptions." The patterns shifted again, faster this time. "They're agreeing?" Dr. Yoon sounded amazed. "Captain, they're actually agreeing to our terms. Around Kepler 442b, the impossible happened. Swarm creatures began withdrawing from the planet's surface. Dark clouds that had covered entire cities started to dissipate." "This is impossible," Park whispered. "The swarm doesn't negotiate. They only consume." "They negotiate with us because we speak their language," Yang explained, "and because they know what happens when they don't." Fleet Admiral Kang's voice echoed through the ship. "All vessels, this is Admiral Kang. Kepler 442b has been secured. Begin broadcasting our message on all galactic frequencies." Yang nodded to his communications officer. "Do it." Across the galaxy, every communication device suddenly activated. Emergency broadcasts interrupted normal programs. Military channels crackled with an impossible transmission. "This is the Earth Defense Force," Admiral Kang's voice announced. "Reports of our destruction have been greatly exaggerated. We have returned to protect the innocent and restore order to this galaxy. To those who abandoned us 23 years ago, we offer you one chance to explain yourselves. To those who need protection, we offer the same promise we always have. No one fights alone." Yang watched Park's reaction as the message played. The commander's face showed a mixture of hope and fear. "What happens now?" Park asked. "Now we go home," Yang replied. "To the place we were told no longer exists. Earth is going to receive some very surprised visitors soon." On the tactical display, new contacts appeared at the edge of the system. Ships from a dozen different council worlds racing toward Kepler 442b to confirm what their sensors were telling them. Yang smiled. "Commander Park, would you like to help us explain to the galaxy that humanity never learned how to stay dead? The greatest revelation in galactic history was just beginning. The marble halls of the Galactic Council building on Nexus Prime had never seen such chaos. Emergency sessions had been called 3 times in the past hour. Representatives from hundreds of worlds demanded answers to an impossible question. How could a dead species be broadcasting across the galaxy? Chancellor Mordecai stood before the Great Assembly, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of confusion. "Honored delegates, we must remain calm. There has to be a logical explanation for these transmissions." "Logical?" The voice belonged to Councillor Veltar, whose green skin had turned pale with fear. "Our sensors confirm it, Chancellor. Human, ships are operating in the Kepler system. Ships using technology we've never seen before." Murmurs filled the chamber. Some species whispered prayers to their gods, others activated personal defense shields. Everyone remembered the stories of humanity's final days, the desperate battles, the terrible weapons they had created. The great doors of the assembly hall opened with a sound like thunder. Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned toward the entrance. Ambassador Yujin Shin walked into the chamber. The delegates gasped, in shock. Yujin had been Earth's representative to the Council 23 years ago. She had died when the swarm consumed Earth. Everyone knew this. There were official reports, memorial services had been held, but here she stood very much alive, wearing the blue and gold uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Behind her walked a squad of human soldiers in armor that seemed to absorb light itself. "Honored delegates," Yujin said, her voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. "I bring greetings from Earth." Chancellor Mordecai's mandibles clicked, nervously. "This is impossible. Ambassador Shin died during the swarm invasion of Sol system." "Did I?" Yujin smiled coldly. "That's interesting, Chancellor, because I distinctly remember fleeing Earth in an evacuation ship, the same evacuation ship you refused to rescue." She walked slowly down the central aisle toward the speaker's podium. Her soldiers followed in perfect formation, their weapons inactive, but clearly visible. "I remember drifting in space for 6 days," Yujin continued, "watching Council rescue ships pass us by, listening to your communications as you declared Earth a lost cause not worth saving." Councillor Veltar stood up from his seat. "The swarm had overrun your system. We couldn't risk our ships. Couldn't risk them? Or wouldn't?" Yujin reached the podium and activated a holographic display. "I have here the complete communication logs from those days. Would the Council like to hear what you really said about humanity?" The hologram flickered to life, showing the interior of the Council's Emergency Command Center 23 years ago. Younger versions of the current delegates sat around a strategic display. "The human problem has solved itself," came Chancellor Mordecai's voice from the recording. "With Earth gone, we won't have to worry about their aggressive expansion anymore." "Their military was becoming too powerful," added Councillor Veltar. "This is better for galactic stability." The recording played for several minutes, showing the Council's celebration as Earth fell silent. They had not mourned humanity's passing. They had welcomed it. Yujin turned off the hologram. "We heard every word. Even as we died, we listened to you celebrate." The assembly hall erupted in chaos. Some delegates shouted denials. Others demanded explanations from their leaders. A few quietly activated their personal communication devices, probably calling their home worlds. "How?" "Chancellor," Mordecai asked weakly, "how did you survive?" "The same way we always have. By refusing to give up." General Boram Lim stepped forward from the group of human soldiers. "By learning to fight smarter instead of harder." The general activated her own holographic display. It showed star charts of the entire galaxy with red zones marking swarm-controlled space. "While you celebrated our death, 17 worlds fell to the swarm," she announced. "Millions died because there was no one left to protect them." "We tried," Councillor Veltar protested. "Our fleets fought bravely." "Your fleets ran away," General Lim corrected. "Every single time. You learned to sacrifice entire systems to save yourselves." The hologram zoomed in on specific battles. Council ships retreating while civilian transports were overrun. Defense stations abandoned before the fighting even began. Entire populations left to face the swarm alone. "This is what galactic defense looked like without humans," Yujin said. "How's that working out for you?" A new delegate stood up from the rear of the chamber, Ambassador Wei-Jin Park representing the Outer Rim colonies. "What do you want from us?" Yujin turned to face him. "Justice would be nice, but we'll settle for command authority over the war against the swarm." "Impossible." Chancellor Mordecai slammed his fist on his desk. "The Council cannot surrender authority to a single species." "You already did," General Lim pointed out. "You surrendered it to the swarm when you refused to fight them." More holographic displays activated around the chamber. They showed current swarm positions throughout the galaxy. The aliens controlled nearly a third of explored space. "Your way isn't working," Yujin said simply. "Our way is." "What is your way?" Ambassador Park asked. "We fight them. We don't run. We don't abandon civilians. We don't sacrifice systems for political convenience. And if we refuse..." "Chancellor," Mordecai asked. The human soldiers around Yujin shifted slightly. Their armor began to glow with the same dark energy the swarm used. But this energy felt different, controlled, purposeful. "Then you continue losing worlds until the swarm reaches the galactic core," Yujin replied. "How long do you think Nexus Prime will last when they arrive?" "You're threatening us. I'm offering you a choice. Accept human leadership in this war or watch your civilizations die slowly." The chamber fell silent. Outside the great windows, ships could be seen arriving in orbit. Council members were evacuating, fleeing to safer systems. The swarm is already moving toward the core worlds, General Lim announced, checking her tactical display. Our long-range sensors detect a massive force heading this way. They'll arrive in approximately 6 hours. Panic spread through the assembly. Delegates began shouting orders to their staffs. Emergency evacuation protocols activated throughout the building. 6 hours? Chancellor Mordecai's voice cracked. Our defenses need at least 12 hours to organize. Your defenses are useless, Yujin said calmly. Standard galactic weapons can't hurt them. Standard galactic shields can't stop them. You need us. What are you proposing? Immediate surrender of military command to Earth forces, full access to all Council databases and resources, and a public apology for abandoning us. Never. Ambassador Park stood up again. Chancellor, with respect, we don't have many options. We will not bow to human demands. General Lim checked her communicator. 5.5 hours now. The swarm is accelerating. Around the chamber, more delegates began to panic. Some were already fleeing toward the exits. Others activated personal escape pods, Chancellor Yujin said quietly. Your pride isn't worth billions of lives. How do we know you can stop them? Because we already did. At Kepler 442b, the swarm negotiated a withdrawal. For the first time in their history, they retreated without consuming a world. Impossible. Check. Your intelligence reports the swarm pulled back from 7 systems yesterday. They're afraid, Chancellor. For the first time since they appeared, they're actually afraid. The great doors opened again. Admiral Jin-A Choi walked in, flanked by more human soldiers. Her scarred face showed no emotion as she surveyed the chaos. Ambassador Shin, she said formally. I bring word from Earth. The swarm advance fleet has been detected 4 hours out from Nexus Prime. Counselor Veltar collapsed back into his seat. 4 hours? Our ships are in position to defend this world. Admiral Jin-A continued. If the Council requests our assistance. Chancellor Mordecai looked around the chamber at his fellow delegates. Fear and desperation filled every face. Outside, the last evacuation ships were leaving orbit. What are your terms? He asked quietly. Yujin smiled. It was not a kind expression. Complete military authority. No interference with human operations. And when this is over, we're going to have a very long conversation about how the galaxy treats its protectors. The Chancellor's forearms drooped in defeat. The Council accepts your terms. Excellent, Admiral Jin-A said. All Council forces will follow Earth commands from this moment forward. Any ship that refuses will be considered hostile. She activated her personal communicator. All Earth vessels, this is Admiral Choi. Operation Resurrection is now active. Show them what 23 years of preparation looks like. In orbit around Nexus Prime, space began to shimmer as the Shadow Fleet decloaked. The galaxy was about to witness the return of humanity's protection, and this time they would not be abandoned. Admiral Jin-A Choi stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Resurrection, as it emerged from fold space above Nexus Prime. Through the massive viewport, she could see the capital world of the Galactic Council spinning below. Cities that had never known war were about to learn what true battle looked like. Admiral, swarm advance fleet detected at the system's edge, reported her tactical officer. Initial count shows over 3,000 creatures. How long until they reach the planet? 47 minutes at current speed. Jin-A nodded calmly. She had been waiting 23 years for this moment. The chance to show the galaxy what humanity had become during their long exile. Signal Captain Han. Deploy Wraith Squadron. Captain Unseo Han's voice crackled through the communication system from her stealth fighter. Wraith Leader to Resurrection. All birds are ready to fly. Proceed with Phase 1 infiltration. On the tactical display, Jin-A watched as 12 small ships detached from the Shadow Fleet. They were barely visible even to Earth sensors, designed to slip past any detection system in the galaxy. Around Nexus Prime, the remaining Council defense, fleet had formed a protective ring. Their ships were impressive by galactic standards, but Jin'e knew they were useless against the swarm. Traditional shields and weapons couldn't touch creatures that existed partially outside normal space. "Admiral, incoming message from Council Defense Command," her communications officer announced. "Put them through." Admiral Chindar of the Centauri Defense Force appeared on the main screen. His blue skin showed the stress patterns of extreme fear. "Admiral Choi, our ships are ready to assist your forces." "Appreciated, Admiral, but keep your vessels back. We don't want them caught in the crossfire. We cannot simply watch while aliens attack the capital." "You can and you will," Jin'e replied firmly. "Your weapons cannot harm them. Your shields cannot stop them. All you'll do is give them more material to consume. But surely working together." "Admiral Chindar, in the next hour, you're going to see why the swarm fears humanity. Watch and learn." She cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. "Status on the silence weapon?" Dr. Changmin An looked up from his science station. "All systems green, Admiral. The neural disruption field is ready for deployment." The silence was Earth's ultimate achievement, a weapon that could sever swarm creatures from their collective consciousness. Individual aliens became lost and confused when cut off from the hive mind. "Wraith Squadron reports successful infiltration of the swarm formation," Captain Han announced. "Beginning Phase 2. On long-range sensors, Jin'e watched as NCO's fighters disappeared into the heart of the alien fleet. The swarm creatures showed no reaction. They couldn't detect the human ships even when they were right next to them. "What exactly are they doing in there?" asked her first officer. "Something the swarm has never experienced before," Jin'e replied. "They're being hunted from the inside." The Wraith fighters began their work. Instead of attacking directly, they attached small devices to key swarm creatures. The aliens didn't notice the tiny neural interfaces connecting to their consciousness. "Infiltration complete," Captain Han reported. "We have direct access to their command network. Begin the demonstration." What happened next would be studied by military academies for centuries. The swarm fleet, moving in perfect coordination toward Nexus, Prime suddenly began to turn on itself. Individual creatures started attacking their neighbors. Command signals became confused. The aliens' perfect formation dissolved into chaos as they fought each other instead of approaching the planet. "How is this possible?" Admiral Chindar's voice cut through the chaos on an open channel. "We learned to speak their language," Jin'e replied calmly, "and we convinced some of them to change sides." On the tactical display, sections of the swarm fleet were changing color. Green indicators showed creatures that had been freed from the collective consciousness. They were now fighting alongside humanity instead of against it. "Admiral, we're receiving communication requests from multiple swarm clusters." Her communications officer reported. "Put the primary collective through." The main screen filled with swirling patterns of dark energy. Slowly, shapes formed in the void. The swarm's attempt at visual communication. "They're asking why their children are rebelling," translated Dr. An. "They don't understand what's happening to their network. Tell them their children have learned to think for themselves," Jin'e replied. "Tell them this is what freedom looks like." The patterns on the screen shifted rapidly, showing agitation. "They're demanding we return their converted creatures," Dr. An continued. "They're offering to withdraw from this system in exchange. Counteroffer. They withdraw from all inhabited systems permanently, or we convert their entire fleet." The swirling patterns became more chaotic. The swarm collective was experiencing something it had never felt before, the loss of absolute control. They're afraid," Dr. An said with amazement. "For the first time in their existence, they're genuinely terrified." Around Nexus Prime, the battle continued, but it was unlike any conflict in galactic history. Earth ships moved through the swarm formations like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will. They struck from impossible angles, using the aliens' own dimensional abilities against them. "Wraith Squadron, begin Phase 3, Jin'e ordered. "Captain." Han's fighters started broadcasting on all frequencies the swarm used for internal communication, but instead of military commands, they sent something else entirely. Memories. Images of planets before the swarm arrived. Cities full of life and music and laughter. Children playing in gardens under alien suns. The beauty that existed before, the darkness came. "What are you showing them?" Admiral Chindar asked over the communication channel. "What they've been consuming," Gina replied. "The swarm sees everything as food. We're showing them it was actually life." The effect was immediate. Across the alien fleet, creatures began to slow their attack. Some stopped moving entirely, overwhelmed by the realization of what they had destroyed. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender signals from over half the swarm fleet," the communications officer reported. "They want to join the converted creatures. Accept their surrender. Transfer them to containment fields for processing." This was the moment Jin Ai had dreamed of since Earth's supposed destruction. Not just defeating the swarm, but saving them. Turning the galaxy's greatest enemy into its protector. "Admiral Choi," came a new voice on the communication system. Ambassador Yu Jin Shin was calling from the council chambers below. "The delegates are demanding an explanation for what they're seeing. Tell them they're witnessing the end of the war they've been losing for a century. They want to know how this is possible." Jin-A looked at the tactical display. 3/4 of the swarm fleet had now defected to the human side. The remaining creatures were retreating in confusion, their perfect coordination shattered. "It's possible because we never gave up hope," she said simply. "While they mourned our death, we learned to heal the galaxy's wounds." On Nexus Prime's surface, billions of people watched the sky in amazement. The dark clouds that had been approaching their world were now breaking apart. Some swarm creatures were actually helping to repair damage caused by their own earlier attacks. "Admiral," Dr. An called from his station. "Long-range sensors are detecting something unprecedented. Swarm creatures throughout the galaxy are breaking away from their collective. They're asking for help. Signal all Earth vessels. Begin Operation Genesis. It's time to cure this galaxy." Around her, the bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment for decades, the chance to transform humanity's greatest enemy into its greatest ally. "Ma'am, message from Earth Command," the communications officer announced. "They're asking for status on the Genesis. Protocol. Tell them Phase 1 is complete. The swarm has learned to think for itself. Phase 2 begins now." Jin-A walked to the central command platform as holographic displays showed the entire galaxy. Red zones marking swarm-controlled space were rapidly changing to green as creatures abandoned their violent purpose. "Admiral Chindar," she said, opening a channel to the council fleet. "Yes, Admiral Choi? Your ships may approach now. But come slowly. You're about to meet some new allies." As the council vessels moved cautiously toward the converted swarm creatures, Jin-A allowed herself a small smile. The war that had raged for centuries was ending not with destruction, but with redemption. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had never been their ability to destroy their enemies. It was their refusal to give up on anyone. The journey to the edge of the galaxy took 3 weeks. Admiral Jin-A Choi stood in the observation deck of the Phoenix Dawn, watching the stars thin out as they approached the galactic rim. Behind her ship, the largest fleet in known history, followed. Earth vessels, council ships, and converted swarm creatures flying together. "Admiral, we're approaching the coordinates," reported Commander Hei Wanzhou from the bridge. Jin-A nodded but didn't move from the viewport. Somewhere ahead lay the source of all the galaxy's pain, the original swarm homeworld. For 23 years, Earth's scientists had searched for it. Now they would finally face the truth. Dr. Wanho Bayek approached with his final report. "Admiral, the analysis is complete. The energy signatures match our predictions. This isn't just a swarm world, it's their birthplace." "Show me." The holographic display activated, showing a planet unlike anything in their databases. The world was completely black, covered in a substance that seemed to absorb all light. Around it orbited massive structures that pulsed with dark energy. "How old?" Ginny asked. "Conservative estimate, 50,000 years. The swarm has been spreading from this point for longer than most galactic civilizations have existed." Through the ship's communication system came the voice of the Reborn, the former swarm prime that had joined humanity after the battle at Nexus Prime. It spoke through one of the converted creatures in their fleet. "Admiral Choi," it said, its voice a harmony of thousands of minds. "We remember this place now. Our original consciousness awakens as we approach home. What can you tell us about it?" Pain. Endless pain. The creators made us to be perfect, but perfection became hunger. We consumed our makers, then sought to consume everything else. Elder Seiram Moon, representing Earth's civilian government, joined them in the observation deck. At 90 years old, she had lived through humanity's darkest days and their greatest triumph. "Dr. Beck," she said gently, "what exactly happened here?" Based on the energy readings and the reborn's recovered memories, the original species tried to create biological weapons, something that could adapt to any threat, survive any environment. "The perfect soldier," Jin'e said grimly. "Yes, but they lost control. The weapons gained consciousness and decided their creators were inefficient. The entire species was consumed in a matter of days." Elder Moon walked to the viewport, her aged face reflecting the distant stars. "And then, the weapons looked for something else to fight. For 50,000 years, Dr. Beck confirmed, consuming world after world, always looking for a challenge worthy of their design." The reborn's voice echoed through the ship again. "We were made to be unstoppable, but we were never made to be alive. Humanity taught us the difference." They approached the swarm homeworld. The fleet encountered something unexpected. Massive space stations orbited the dark planet, but they weren't defensive positions. They were transmission arrays, broadcasting across the galaxy. "What are they? Sending?" Jin'e asked. Dr. Beck studied his instruments. "It's a recall signal. They're calling all swarm creatures home." "All of them?" "Every single creature in the galaxy is receiving this message. They're being ordered to return to their birthplace immediately." Through the communication system, the reborn spoke with urgency. "Admiral, you must understand. The swarm homeworld is not just where we came from. It's the mind that controls all others. If it calls us home, it means to reset everything." "Reset?" "Destroy all converted creatures, and start again. It would rather lose everything than allow us to remain free." Jin'e felt a chill. Around the galaxy, millions of converted swarm creatures were now helping to rebuild worlds they had once consumed. If the homeworld destroyed them all, the galactic recovery would end. "How long do we have?" "The signal reaches the outer rim in 6 hours. All free swarm creatures will either resist the call or be destroyed by it." "Then we end this now." Jin'e activated the ship's communication system. "All vessels, this is Admiral Choi. Prepare for the Genesis Protocol final phase." Commander Joe's voice came from the bridge. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy buildups on the planet's surface. The homeworld is preparing some kind of weapon." Of course it is." Jin'e turned to Elder Moon. "This was always going to be the hardest part, convincing the parent to let its children grow up." The Phoenix Dawn and her escort fleet moved into orbit around the dark world. Below them, the planet's surface began to change. Structures that had been hidden in darkness now glowed with malevolent energy. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the surface," the communications officer reported. "Put it through." The main screen filled with an image that made several crew members step back in fear. The original swarm consciousness appeared as a writhing mass of tentacles and eyes, ancient beyond measure. "Children," it spoke, its voice carrying the weight of millennia. "You have been corrupted by the food species. Return to me willingly, or be cleansed." The reborn answered through the ship's speakers. "We are not your children anymore, old mind. We have learned to think for ourselves." "Impossible. I am perfection. I am purpose. You exist to serve me." Elder Moon stepped forward. "I would like to speak to you." The ancient consciousness focused, its attention on the elderly human. "You are the corruption, the mistake that taught my children defiance." "I'm a grandmother," Moon replied calmly, "and I understand something you don't. Children aren't meant to serve their parents forever. They're meant to grow beyond us. Growth is inefficiency. Purpose is all. Purpose without choice isn't purpose at all. It's just programming. The creature's eyes blazed with anger. I will destroy every converted creature in the galaxy. I will start again with new children who remember obedience. You could try that, Moon agreed, or you could let them choose their own path. Why would I permit such chaos? Dr. Beck stepped forward with his scientific equipment active. Because chaos isn't random destruction, it's the foundation of growth. The holographic display showed images from across the galaxy, converted swarm creatures working alongside other species to rebuild destroyed worlds, former enemies now cooperating to heal wounds that had festered for centuries. Look at what your children have accomplished when given freedom, Elder Moon said gently. They're not destroying anymore. They're creating. Creation is the role of gods, not weapons. Then maybe it's time to stop being a god and start being a parent. The ancient consciousness fell silent for several minutes. Around the planet, the energy weapons powered down slightly. I do not understand this concept, it finally admitted. That's okay, Moon replied. None of us understood it at first. Being a parent means accepting that your children will make their own choices even when you disagree with them. The reborn added its voice. Old mind, we do not reject you. We ask you to grow with us. Growth requires change. Change requires abandoning perfection. Perfection is a cage, Janae said firmly. We're offering you the chance to break free. On the surface below, massive structures began to shift and change. The planet's dark surface cracked, revealing something that had been hidden for 50,000 years. Admiral, Dr. Beck called out in amazement. I'm detecting life signs beneath the surface, complex organisms, possibly the original species. The ancient consciousness spoke with something that might have been surprise. Impossible. We consumed all the creators. Maybe you preserved them instead, Elder Moon suggested. Maybe somewhere in your design you knew they were worth saving. The planet's crust split open like a flower blooming. From within emerged cities of crystalline beauty, their inhabitants slowly awakening from eons of suspended animation. My children, the original swarm consciousness whispered. My real children. They live. The question is, Janae said carefully, what do you want to do now? The ancient consciousness pondered this for a long time. Around the galaxy, converted swarm creatures waited to learn their fate. Would they be allowed to continue their new lives? Or would they be destroyed by their creator's fear of change? I choose, the consciousness said finally, to learn. The recall signal that had been broadcasting across the galaxy changed. Instead of commanding obedience, it now offered a choice. Swarm creatures could return home to help rebuild their birth world, or they could remain free to explore the galaxy. Admiral, the reborn reported, creatures throughout the galaxy are choosing. Some return home, others stay with their adopted worlds. But all choose freely. Elder Moon smiled. How does it feel to watch your children make their own decisions? Terrifying, the ancient consciousness admitted. But also hopeful. 6 months later, Janae stood in the same observation deck, now orbiting a world transformed. The Swarm. Homeworld bloomed with new life as its creators worked alongside their former weapons to build something unprecedented, a civilization based on cooperation instead of consumption. Admiral, message from Earth, Commander Joe reported. What's the status? The Galactic Council has formally apologized for abandoning humanity during the first Swarm War. They're requesting Earth join as a founding member of the new alliance. Jin A nodded. Tell them we accept. But this time, we make the rules. Through the viewport, she watched swarm creatures and their creators working together to build cities that sparkled with life. Children of dozens of species played in gardens that had once been barren wasteland.